Now pay attention.
Green!
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the movies where the creators might regret giving the fans what they asked for.
I've done questionable things.
Also extraordinary things.
Number 10, Alien Covenant.
It's your choice now, brother. Them or me. Serve in heaven or reign in hell.
Before he made this movie, director Ridley Scott was ready to move on from the iconic xenomorph. Although the deadly creature is what made the original film so terrifying, Scott felt it was time to retire the beast. But fans have their own ideas. They weren't happy that the xenomorph was left out of Prometheus, the first Alien prequel, and they made their displeasure clear to Scott.
I guess it's a good thing you can't be disappointed, huh?
Yes. It's wonderful, actually.
Worried that he'd lose the goodwill of the fans, Scott changed his mind and decided to bring the xenomorph back after all. The resulting movie is basically a rehash of the previous Alien films and didn't do nearly as well at the box office as its predecessor.
When one note is off, it eventually destroys the whole symphony, David.
Number 9, Resident Evil Apocalypse.
So you know what they are? They're bioweapons from the Umbrella Labs beneath the city.
Fans of the video games were sharply split in their reaction to the first film in this franchise. Although it was a financial success, it didn't include any game characters and felt more like a generic zombie movie. In order to keep the fans on board, the filmmakers brought some beloved characters from the games into the sequel, including fan favorite villain Nemesis.
The Nemesis program is now fully activated.
They must have thought that would be enough to keep audiences happy, because the rest of the movie feels extremely low effort. It looks cheap, the story is non-existent, and what is up with the editing? We hope a lesson was learned here. You need more than fan service to make a decent movie.
What does that mean? It means that it'll destroy the infection. 11 and 7.
Number 8, Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
You waited 10 years. I knew this day would come.
For the third film in the famous slasher franchise, the creators tried to go in a different direction. In Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, they shifted away from Michael Myers to focus on a story about witchcraft, hoping to turn the series into an anthology. This didn't go well.
I do love a good joke, and this is the best ever.
The fans clamored for more Michael, and the producers basically had no choice but to give them what they wanted. Due to an impending writer's strike, the screenwriter had to develop the entire script in just 11 days. The final product was slow, boring, and not scary. Even the Shape's mask doesn't look right.
You're talking about him as if he were a human being. That part of him died years ago.
Number 7, Jurassic Park III.
You're Alan Grant. What are you doing here?
While many fans consider Ian Malcolm to be the most lovable franchise character, others were disappointed that the second film didn't bring back Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler. In an attempt to appease the fan base, the studio wanted to ensure that the duo of scientists returned for the third film. But figuring out how to make that happen was a challenge.
I read both of your books. I like the first one more.
The first script was thrown out completely, while the second was deemed too complex and underwent heavy rewrites. Ultimately, the cast and crew had to start shooting without a finished script, which director Joe Johnston called nerve-wracking. Dr. Grant's involvement with the final story seems incredibly contrived, and Ellie's presence feels like an afterthought. These two icons deserve better.
Look, you have to believe me, this was a stupid decision, but I did it with the best intentions.
Number 6, Saw 3D. Contrary to what you might think based on the title, this is actually the 7th film in the Saw franchise. By this point, it definitely felt like the writers were running out of ideas, so they turned to a fan theory that had been circulating on the internet for years.
Hello, Dr. Gordon. You are perhaps my greatest asset.
The theory was that a victim from the first movie, Dr. Gordon, had become Jigsaw's apprentice. Of course, as soon as Cary Elwes was revealed to be involved in Saw 3D, everyone knew exactly where the story was headed. The result was an extremely predictable movie and a plot twist that was anything but surprising.
No! Game over.
No! Number 5, Green Lantern.
Why is your skin green? Why are you glowing? What the hell is with that mask?
Imagine casting Ryan Reynolds to help make your movie more serious. The original concept for Green Lantern was an action comedy with Jack Black starring as an everyman swept up in a superhero story. Fans hated the idea.
He said it was a great honor, responsibility.
The negative reactions on the internet was so strong, Warner Brothers threw out the concept and started from scratch. They ended up with a weak story full of bad dialogue and way too much terrible CGI. Of course, hindsight is 2020. Now we know that Ryan Reynolds plus true action comedy is box office gold.
Just doing my job. No thanks necessary, miss.
Number 4, Blade Runner.
It's too bad she won't live. But then again, who does?
If you've only seen the director's cut or the final cut of this sci-fi classic, you might not be aware that the theatrical release included some truly terrible voiceover. For this, you can thank the test audiences who saw the film at an early screening. They found it too difficult to follow, which led to the studio to insist on adding the narration.
I didn't know how long we'd have together. Who does?
Hearing Deckard's internal monologue out loud completely changes the tone of the film and ruins some otherwise beautiful scenes. No wonder it flopped at the box office. We're just grateful that Ridley Scott finally got to release the version of the movie he originally envisioned.
All those moments will be lost in time.
Number 3, Spectre.
So, James, why did you come?
I came here to kill you.
Skyfall, the third movie starring Daniel Craig as James Bond, was the most successful film in the long-running franchise by a wide margin. So how come a lot of die-hard Bond fans didn't care for it? It could be because director Sam Mendes was inspired by The Dark Knight, and in many ways, Skyfall feels more like a Batman movie than a 007 movie.
We don't really go in for that anymore.
To keep the fan base satisfied, Mendes decided to bring back more traditional Bond elements for Spectre, like intimidating henchmen, plenty of gadgets, and of course, an iconic Bond villain. We just wish he put as much effort into creating a compelling story as he did into pleasing the fans.
How predictably moronic. But then isn't that what M stands for? Moron.
Number 2, Justice League.
So let me get this straight. You do it dressed like a bat, like an actual bat. It's worked for 20 years in Gotham.
You probably know that this movie is a bit of a mess, partly because director Zack Snyder departed the project early to deal with a death in the family. Joss Whedon took over and ordered a number of reshoots and changes to the script, but many people don't realize that Whedon was brought on to make changes before Snyder actually left.
Thank you is not enough what you did. I did a mistake, that's all.
The studio wasn't happy with the fan reaction to Batman v Superman, and they wanted Justice League to have a lighter tone. We ended up with a lifeless mishmash of a movie where the reshoots are painfully obvious. Another DCEU movie, Suicide Squad, suffered from similar problems, with the studio even bringing in the trailer company to recut the film.
So that's it? What, we some kind of Suicide Squad?
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications.
Number 1, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
Rey Skywalker.
The Last Jedi was objectively a critical and box office success, but some Star Wars fans weren't thrilled with the direction it took the franchise. Some of them had valid reasons, and others not so much. Unfortunately, Disney and director J.J. Abrams let the opinions of this small but vocal group have way too much influence over the final film.
Do me a personal favor, be optimistic.
Yes, ma'am. This is terrific. You're not going to believe how well this is going to turn out. It's going to be great.
It almost felt like they were trying to undo everything established in the previous movie. Suddenly, Rey isn't a nobody. She's part of an important family. Kylo Ren rebuilds his helmet after smashing it in The Last Jedi. Most baffling of all, somehow Palpatine returns, despite having clearly exploded decades earlier. The result is the worst reviewed Star Wars movie since the prequels.
We've decoded the intel from the First Order spy, and it confirms the worst.
somehow Palpatine returned.
Which movie do you think was the biggest waste of potential? Be sure to let us know in the comments down below.
So you're telling us the one time we need you to talk, you can't?
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.